because we had a closed session before the meeting. Do we have a motion?
I will move that the closed meeting be concluded, and the board certifies that to each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that the closed meeting be concluded, and that the board certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, that one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and that number two, only such business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Do we have a motion out of closed session?
I move that the school board uphold the superintendent's recommendation for suspension in personal matters 101314-1 and 101314-2.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that the school board uphold the superintendent's recommendation for suspension in personnel matters number 101314-1 and 101314-2. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Williamson, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Okay, thank you. We first want to have a moment of silence for Josie Gilbert, who was a student at Auburn Middle School, and I want to read what Helen Orion, the assistant principal at Auburn Middle School, wrote about this student. We lost a dear and beautiful 7th grade girl to cancer yesterday morning. Josie Gilbert was a strong and positive student who touched the lives of many children and adults in our combined communities. She was forever cheerful and a friend to many. She persevered through her illness for several years with quiet resolve. We will all miss her very much, and our prayers go out to her family and friends during this most difficult time. I want to add that a memorial service for Josie is being planned for later this week, and in order to fully devote their attention to Josie and her family, the Auburn 10-year anniversary celebration scheduled for this Friday has been postponed. So let's honor her with a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, so Ms. Bourne, you're going to present about the potential redistricting for our
Yes.
public hearing.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Jack. Tonight, we are holding a public hearing on proposed boundary line adjustments in several of our elementary schools. The proposed boundary line adjustments impact the developments that are shown on this chart. There are 4 Brookside phases that, because of the way the phases are located, they actually are in 2 school zones. And we are recommending that each phase should be located in 1 school zone only. So I'll show you a map in a moment. So that's for the 4 Brookside phases. The last development on the chart, Goose Pond Grove, is located in the Thompson zone. And that development is located very near Coleman. And because of other development planned in the Thompson zone, Thompson Elementary School would become over capacity. So we are proposing that that development be moved into the Coleman zone. So here's the first map, which actually shows Brookside Phase 13B, and this is the This is the part of it that's in the Ritchie zone, and then down here is in the Greenville zone. The blue line is the existing boundary line. The red dotted line is the proposed boundary line. So with 13B, we're proposing that it be moved into the Ritchie zone. And as I said, now it's in both Ritchie and Greenville. This phase is 12B, and it's located in the Ritchie zone, and a little bit of it is located in the Greenville zone. And we're recommending that the boundary line be moved up here to the dotted line, and that all of it be located in the Greenville zone.
And did you mention that these houses aren't built yet?
These particular houses are under construction right now. We don't know how many contracts have been sold on these homes, but we know there's at least one or two, go back. There's at least one or two in 12B, and we know there's at least one, this Lakeside Drive, that we have one family actually living on Lakeside Drive, but the other houses are either not complete, they're not occupied at this time, but they are going to start being occupied. Now, the next phases of Brookside, Phase 10 and 11, these are not being constructed yet, and in fact, the roads haven't even been fully located. The final site plan for the roads is not complete. But we know enough of where it's located to be able to make a proposal on where the phase should be located. But right now, I keep going to hit laser and I hit the error. This is Phase 10. And this is the existing boundary line right here for Greenville. This down south is Greenville and above is Ritchie. So a little bit of this phase is in the Greenville zone, and then the rest of it's in the Ritchie zone. This is Phase 11, and a lot of it's in the Greenville zone, and then a little bit of it's in the Ritchie zone. We're proposing that this line be adjusted to the red dotted line, and that all of Phase 11 be located in Greenville, and all of Phase 10 be located in Ritchie zone. And as I said, none of those are being constructed yet. And then the last one, which is Goose Pond Grove. Goose Pond Grove is in this hatched area, and this is the boundary line, the dark line is the boundary line between Coleman and Thompson. The pink is Coleman, and the white is Thompson. And as I mentioned, there are a number of developments that are proposed for the Thompson zone, and if they all come to fruition, then Thompson would be over capacity. And this happens to be a development that's right on the boundary between Thompson and Coleman, and it's a good candidate to move to the Coleman zone. So we're recommending that the boundary line be adjusted to the red dotted line, and that Goose Pond Grove be moved to Coleman. And these are single-family attached units, and they are about to begin to be occupied. They expect people to be moving in about the middle of November. And so that's what we are holding this public hearing on tonight, and we just wanted to show what the proposals were before the public spoke.
Any questions? Okay. Anything? No, that sounds great. Okay. We'll call the public hearing open. Now, we didn't have anybody on our list. Did anybody want to speak? Okay. I just want to make a statement, though, that Ms. Reardon, who represents the Scott District, where Brookside is, apologized that she couldn't be here tonight. And I just want to talk a little bit about a suggestion that Mr. Gorg made that we're going to start doing at all of our meetings. So everybody's very interested in hearing from everybody about your thoughts about not only this proposed redistricting, but also anytime a person speaks at citizens' time at one of our meetings. So from now on, when you sign up on the sign-up sheet, we're going to ask for your contact information because we try to take notes up here, but sometimes we want to get back with you and just confirm something or ask a question. So when you sign up, you'll ask for your email address or your phone number. And also, if anybody who speaks can also email their comments, their full comments, to at fcps1.org, then Ms. Callahan will be sure to forward those to us. So that's a great suggestion. Okay, so nobody wants to speak? Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay, and we have a special presentation about Mountain Vista Governor School.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolf. I'm Roseanne Williamson. I'm the director of Mountain Vista Governor School, and Mr. Bland is on our board, and he asked me to come tonight to share with you the update that I gave Mountain Vista Governor School Governing Board about Mountain Vista. I present an update every September, and it's kind of the state of the school, what we've done for the past year, and he had asked me to share that with you tonight. I haven't gone into a lot of background information or details about Mountain Vista and our program, just kind of where we're at now. So if you have any questions, please ask at any point, and I'll be happy to address those. Oops. Now, you told me how to do that. Okay, very good. Thank you. So, Mountain Vista Governor School opened in 2006. It has been 8 years since we've had Governor School, and many of you were part of that planning in those first years and remember meetings and discussions about getting Governor School started, and so it's been a fantastic 8 years for us. There are 19 governor schools in Virginia now, and we are 18. So there's one over Manassas that's younger than us, but we're still next to the youngest of the governor schools. 3 of those are full-day programs, but the majority are half-day programs like ours, and many are STEM programs also, as Mountain Vista is. So we finished year 8, 2013-14, with 63 students finishing the program. We have a vital parent support group as well as a foundation that supports Governor School. Our parent group has been in existence since Governor School opened, and they tend to do day-to-day things for students, plan a senior banquet, have breakfast once a month, do nice things for the current students that we have, support field experiences, where our foundation has a little bit more of a broader focus. Our foundation has provided replacement electronic textbooks for Governor School, been able to purchase 2 14-passenger buses, and supports our rocketry team and robotics team and many of the co-curricular and extracurricular kinds of things that we do. This year, our foundation was able to also get a specific gift to send all Governor School teachers to the National Association for Gifted Conference. It's in Baltimore. We're fortunate enough to have this national conference within driving distance. So the Governor School teachers are going to get to go to that conference in November. And then as part of our growth plan, our 5-year growth plan, our board has approved the addition of 10th grade for 16-17, not next year, but the next year. It's been the plan of our governing board since the beginning to have a 4-year half-day program. However, with budget constraints and finances the way they've been in the past few years, there hasn't been a possibility of adding grade levels, though we've added some additional courses and content area. So finally, at 16-17, we have the plan to add a 10th grade program to join our 11th and 12th grade program. Each year, toward the end of the year, we have student surveys. We look at our data, and with impact from our academic advisory board, we evaluate how we're doing. These are some of the things that each year we look at as we are seeing how we did for the end of the year. For our class of 2014, all of our graduates, 59 graduates, went on to higher education. You can see that UVA is the popular choice at Mountain Vista, with Virginia Tech dragging somewhat behind. This is this is a little unusual. Typically, we have some fewer going to UVA and a few more going to Virginia Tech. When I get to the Fauquier slide, those of you that might be more inclined toward Virginia Tech will appreciate that a bit. But UVA has, in all of our 8 years, been the most popular choice for our students. 22% went out of state this past year, and you can see a list of some of the schools that they received acceptance offers Two, well, actually, these are schools that students chose to attend. There's always other schools that they are accepted, but for financial reasons, many times students choose to stay in state. You can get such a fine education in the state of Virginia, sometimes it just doesn't make financial sense to go out of state. I put Fauquier's numbers up here, especially for you, because I knew you would be interested in that. In our 8 years, we've had 185 students attend Mountain Vista Governor's School, and see, Virginia Tech is much closer among the Fauquier population. This is in all of the 8 years put together. So we've had 30% of our alumni go to UVA, 22% Tech, and about 5% William and Mary. Other popular choices in state are James Madison, George Mason, Christopher Newport, and then all over state. And you can see some of the out-of-state institutions that we've had. As of this year, we've had a student, at least one student, go to each of the service academies. So for last year, we had an enrollment of 131 students. 96% stayed for the entire year, and of those, 42 were Fauquier County students. SOL scores are not really a problem for us, as they shouldn't be a problem. They're minimum competency tests, so our students do very well with SOLs. Our APs have improved through the years, and you can see the numbers that scored 3 or greater, 4 or greater, and scored 5 as we've gone through. Fauquier County is now the only division that requires students to take all the AP tests for courses they're enrolled and still pays for it. And I put this at the bottom because I thought Dr. Mitchell would appreciate that. Fauquier County has 99% participation in AP. Governor's School in whole has 78%, but look how the numbers have stayed up. The performance has stayed up, even though everyone's taken the test, because typically you have students opting out that aren't confident with that, with those tests. So I was pleased to see that with 99% participation, Fauquier's success rate with AP is quite high. Dual enrollment is an important part of Governor's School. All 13 courses that we teach are offered for dual enrollment credit with Lord Fairfax. All of our teachers are credentialed to teach as LFCC adjuncts. 1,800 hours of college credit was earned, and that counts as 150 extra students for Lord Fairfax Community College. Lord Fairfax has been a valuable, valuable partner to Mountain Vista. If we didn't have the college to have classes, to support our technology, to provide library services, and many of the things that Lord Fairfax provides, it would be very difficult for us to have a school. So it's been a good, productive relationship, and I'm pleased that our dual enrollment numbers continue to increase to support their program also. Every year we survey our students at the end of the year. These are the things that students like about Governor's School. This list has been consistent for 8 years. You may know that a year ago, our governing board approved a program to lease laptop computers for the students. So all the Governor's School students have the same computers, same software. That has facilitated our integration of technology significantly. And so that showed up this year as a positive, which was those laptops that we were able to get for them last year. Suggestions for improvement, you can see that laptops were the suggestions of improvement in the past. However, for this past year, students would like to use those laptops in technology classes. The plan that we have drafted when we do add 10th grade will be able to have more time so that we can add some computer programming, some computer systems classes, some specific technology classes to Governor's School program, which is, I believe, what they're asking for at this point. Many students would like to take computer classes at Governor's School, specific classes. Parent surveys. Survey our parents every year. These are positives that have been listed for Governor's School from parents whose children attend Mountain Vista. We've had a number of families with multiple students, multiple children from the same family come into Governor's School. We like to always enjoy seeing that and hear these consistently over the years. Suggestions for improvement. You can see some of the things that parents have suggested. This last year, we had a little bit of an issue with summer assignments. Thought there was a little bit too much work for summer assignments. So we're going to consider that. Our students do a 2-year research program. So for our rising seniors, there is summer work that has to be done with the research project. But that is a valuable part of Governor School to participate in those, that research project. So these were the things the parents had suggested. Our faculty is amazing. They are just a fine, fine group of educators. They have gifted endorsement, of course, state credentials in multiple disciplines. They have the graduate work required to teach for the community college. And they do so many other additional things, above and beyond teaching the classes at Governor School. I've listed some of those there. I want to point out to you our PAL groups. These are, a student said once it was like clubs with rules. It's the extra and co-curricular activities that we're able to fit into our Wednesday flex days. We have a competitive rocketry team, competitive robotics teams at both campuses. We have a health and fitness group, a community service group, Destination Imagination. This year we had a group of students who wanted to do math competitions. So that was exciting to Mrs. Raines and our other math teachers that we've had. And we have an art group. So these are some of the additional things that students are able to do to get out in the community and to excel in some of these extension kinds of ways. In addition, our teachers present at conferences, and they provide some base school support through gifted programs in some of the base schools. These are some of the activities that we do at Governor School. We go on an all-day field experience each 9 weeks. This September, we went to Verdun Adventure Bound over in Culpeper. We do a trip to D.C. We'll go to Massanutten Ski Resort and wear, not just ski, but we wear accelerometers and collect data and analyze the coefficient of friction and things like that that I don't know too much about, but the students do. And then we'll go to Math and Science Day at King's Dominion. Because we have the small bus, we're able to do many more small group experiences just during the morning time and get students out in the community. Our teachers also run some summer extension activities. We have an astronomy workshop that involves 3 days at Lord Fairfax, and then we go to Green Bank National Observatory over in West Virginia for an overnight to collect data there. And you can see some of the other summer activities that we've done. And then for the new year, this is our goals for this school year. We're going to continue to plan for the addition of 10th grade in 2016-17. We continue to work to enhance relations with our base school, with Lord Fairfax. We'd like to start an alumni group because we're getting a cohort of young people that are now out working in the world, and we'd like to involve them back in Mountain Vista through our foundation. We are planning to do our 3rd annual One Book, One School, One Question project. You have in the little folder I gave you, you have a flyer about that. This is where the whole school community reads the same book and then discusses it, and then we have a conference, like a professional conference with a keynote and breakout sessions. Our book this year is The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and you're certainly welcome to come and participate, lead a breakout session, or just come as a guest if you'd like to. Strengthen our college and career guidance. This has been a request from our students and parents. Last year, we were able to hire a part-time college and career counselor. She's a retired guidance counselor that worked at Fairfax County and then in Warren County, so we're fortunate to have her 1 day a week. We are piloting some computer programming projects in anticipation of adding a computer programming class. So we've got some additional computer programming going on through our physics program. We're continuing to improve our research program. I'd like to congratulate you on starting this research project program in Fauquier County. That is a huge advantage to prepare students to be ready to be competitive at Governor School and in these science fairs across the country. Frederick County's been doing that for several years, and it really pays off. And so that's such a good thing that's been added in Fauquier County, is a research program starting down in middle school. And then we want to support our struggling students earlier and more extensively so everyone can be successful that comes to Mountain Vista. This is the demographics. I added a Fauquier column so you can see how Fauquier stands. We're starting this year with 125 students. We have 8 full-time teachers, a part-time guidance counselor. We have a part-time computer technician, and a full-time office manager, and me. And I appreciate your continued support for Governor's School. One thing I did want to mention as I finish up, that we're going to have the 2nd annual Mountain Vista Trivia Contest coming up on the 25th right here at Fauquier High School. And the Fauquier team needs to defend the title from last year. So I think Dr. Jeck and Mr. Bland and several folks have a team together. And so if you're interested in coming, we'd love to have you. It's a chance to show off your chili. Ms. Kotov won the brownie contest.
No, she finished third.
She did.
Did I say that? I'm sorry. Did I say that?
That wasn't nice.
And there were only 2 entries, which is amazing.
That's right.
There you go. Well, the reason I remember is because I thought she had the best brownies.
She did.
I read her.
Absolutely, she did.
Very good. But it's a fun night. There's trivia, there's a silent auction, and the chili contest. So we'd love for you to come. There's information about that also in your brochure. Do
Yeah,
you have any
that's
questions?
No, it's great.
May I remind the board, we have a
We have a
walkthrough scheduled for, was it the 25th? 24th.
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 Yes. Looking forward to
We will see
having
you
you.
there. Absolutely.
We'll have some students to share with you some of the things that they're doing that day.
Great.
Very good.
Well,
We
it's
sincerely
wonderful.
appreciate everything that
Yes.
you've done and continue to do.
Thank you.
You've been an inspiration in that position.
Thank you.
Sincerely, thank you.
Thank you for
That's
having me
great.
tonight.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Mitchell, are we
you.
living up to your expectation? Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to run through these announcements. October Personnel Committee meeting is canceled. The October Mountain Vista Governor's School Governing Board meeting is canceled, and there will be a Building Committee meeting Thursday, October 23 at 8:30 a.m. in the School Administration Conference Room. Chairman's Night will be Monday, October 27th at 5 p.m. in the School Administration Conference Room, and there will be a special school board meeting and work session Monday, October 27th at 6 p.m. in the School Administration Conference Room. There will be a Health Advisory Committee meeting Wednesday, November 5th at 8 a.m. in the Central Complex Building Conference Room, and there will be a Special Education Advisory Committee meeting Wednesday, November 5th at 5 p.m. in the Central Complex Building A Conference Room. And the next school board meeting is Monday, November 10th at 7 o'clock in this room. Okay, citizens' time. Again, community involvement is really important and a important component of a successful school division, and the school board welcomes your input. Please be respectful of all speakers and limit your comments to 3 minutes, and matters relating to personal or personnel issues cannot be discussed. Okay, and again, on the sign-in sheet, and after you speak tonight, it'd be great if you could all email your stuff to clerk@fcps1.org so we could get your comments. And on the list is Alan Creasy. This is how it looks now.
Hi, my name is Alan Creasy from the Marshall District. As chairman and members of the school board and Dr. Jeck, I'm here to thank you for putting back in middle school sports. I've been to several games this fall, and it's been a joy to watch the young athletes participate. I think it's needed that we need to have control of the kids and everything like that with the ADs at each school, you know, implementing their and supporting the coaches, and it's working good. From a guy who's been around sports for several years and doing my job over the years, really interesting to watch young boys playing baseball,
Yeah.
making the jump from playing Little League with 60-foot bases to now going 90-foot bases. And very competitive games I've watched. The coaches, everybody's, you know, community atmosphere is great at each school location I've gone to. The parents are there, the kids are there, and it's just a great atmosphere, and I want to thank you again. It was especially important to have these programs at the middle schools, and especially leading and going up to the high school years. So on behalf of me in general, because I put a lot of years into it, I just think it's going well, and I hope, and we need your support. Also, I'd like to, being an old guy here from Fauquier High School, thank you for putting a new roof on the old gym. It's much needed. I fought leaks in that for several years, each time we have a heavy rain, and they never could find this leak. Every time it'd be in the same spot, they couldn't ever find it. So it's welcome to have that done, and I also heard through the grapevine we might be getting an update in the weight room, and that's good. That's needed by all the students. So again, I want to thank you for your continued support of our kids in Fauquier County and Fauquier High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, did anybody else want to speak who didn't get a chance to sign up? Okay, all right, board reports. Mr. Gorg.
I'm going to piggyback on what Ms. Williamson said, also about Lord Fairfax Community College. Talking to some people, there's just need for space. The community college needs space, and it's also affecting our capacity with the Mountain Vista Governor School. And there's a recent effort to look for funding from the state and locally, but mostly from the state, to expand a wing of the Lord Fairfax Community College. And I think that will benefit our students in a number of ways, give them more opportunities as they graduate our schools to go into those community colleges and some new programs. I think it'll expand the career and college pathways that we're looking at. It also expand the capacity for accepting more students into the Mountain Vista Governor School. So I was at a little fundraiser for that event a couple weeks ago and learned quite a bit, and would encourage people to also look at that as part of the entire continuum of education in this county. I also piggyback on what Mr. Creasy said. Just hearing from students who do not participate in the sports at the middle schools, the school spirit is quite high. I won't say it was never not, but it is very high, and I think that kids in middle school need sort of that idea of they belong to a school that's coming together. And I think, I know around the baseball team at Warrenton Middle School, even kids who are not participating in that recognize that, and they cheer that on, and they're part of it. So I think it's a good program to boost the morale of our students. So good reports.
Mr. Blaine.
I want to follow up with what Coach Creasy was saying. Last Tuesday, I believe it was, I attended a sports event up at Marshall Middle School. They played Cedar Lee. On one field was the boys' baseball team, and on the other field was the girls' soccer team. And I tell you what, the buzz was just great. I mean, there were a lot of parents there, a lot of support. A number of parents who recognized me came up to me and again, thanked me on, for helping to bring that about again. But it's just been tremendous, the support and the attendance at these games. It's been great.
We did not have a building committee meeting, and personnel we've already talked about previously, so I haven't got anything.
Okay. Dr. Jack?
I just would mention that I attended the first part of the legislative meeting, the state legislative conference in Charlottesville today. And there was very good conversation about assessment, authentic assessment, moving forward. But the most important thing I heard was from the state superintendent, who said, it's okay if we don't get it right the first time, and it's okay if we struggle, and it's even okay if we fail the first time through. That's how we learn, that's how we get better, and that's how we get stronger. And it was good to hear that, and he must have borrowed the words directly from Dr. Mitchell, because those are exactly the kind of things Dr. Mitchell's been saying.
Growth mindset.
About assessing and assessing differently and using authentic assessments to measure learning, not multiple choice tests. It was a really good conversation, but as I said, I was really heartened to hear some of those state leaders say, you know what, you don't have to be perfect the first time through. It's okay if we struggle, because that's how we're going to grow as a state. So just wanted to share that with you. It was a really good meeting, and I think we really got the right people on the bus in terms of the Department of Education, the State Secretary of Education, we're moving in the right direction.
That's great, that's great. The only thing I had is today I attended, Stephanie Strong had a 10th grade honors English class, had these, today at Fauquier High School, had her students put together little stations about childhood hunger in America. And it was terrific. And I just want to read you, I asked at each one of the stations, I asked some of the kids, what did you learn? And this is what they said. Well, I want to start with that each group told me they were astounded to find that there are over 2,000 people in Fauquier County, 950 of which are children who don't have enough to eat. So given that, what these kids told me was, one gentleman told me, given the numbers of people who go hungry in our county, it is most likely that we all know someone who is hungry. These are kids. One other student said it's hard to buy healthy foods on a budget. One of the kids right in this room, or a group of them, they had to buy a meal for 4 people with a budget of under $6. So they went to Walmart and their intention was to buy spaghetti and meatballs and all this stuff, and they ended up, it was actually hilarious, but what they got out of it is it's very hard to buy healthy foods on a budget. And then one girl told me it costs more to ignore the problem than to address it early. And then another student said, what happens, that they realize what happens to students who get free lunch in the summer and on snow days. And another student said it's hard to pay attention in school when you're hungry. And they've started here, and that's profound stuff for these students to learn from this program. And they've started a school-wide collection for canned goods that's going to be school-wide for ongoing. And these are really great lessons that these students learned, and thanks to Stephanie Strong and her class. It was great.
It was very impressive, it really was. They were genuinely eager and concerned and wanting to do the right thing here. I was impressed, I really was.
Yeah.
Can I just mention again, the fact that we're going to have the trivia contest and the chili cook-off on Saturday, October the 25th from 6 to 9 right here at Fauquier High School. Tickets are $15 each for a table of 8. You can buy a ticket for $100. If you want to fund a ticket of, a table of 8, we'll certainly appreciate it. Those monies go to supporting all kinds of activities at the Mountain Vistas Governor School. Rocketry, robotics, all of the field trips and everything that they take. So your participation, your funding is absolutely necessary and appreciated, very much appreciated, okay?
Okay, anything else? Okay.
Okay.
Finance management report, Ms. Kotov.
You have before you the report, the financial management report through August 2014. Our revenues are on track for their school operating, but on the expenditure side, I'd like to point out 2 things. And this is going to be true to any of the funds that have salaries. Due to the implementation of the biweekly, it's going to, in the past, we've always had 1/12 of the salaries every month, so it's very standard. So as you're doing comparisons through the year, because there's 26 pay cycles for most of the staff, it's going to throw it off. In fact, normally 10-month people, their first check is in September, but there was a partial check in August. So you are going to see that throughout all of them. And the other thing is, at the beginning of the year, with the state running with their budget and then the county being very conservative and not appropriating it, we were pretty conservative in our expenditures. And for instance, if you look in the school operating at purchase services, you can see in the past, by this time we had done most of our encumbrances and our paid for a lot of our services, and this year we did it. We did hold off. We were very conservative in our spending, and that's going to throw us off a little bit, but I'm sure we'll catch up. The school asset fund, it was much quicker turnaround on the carryover. So you'll see that this year's asset fund looks much larger than last year. Next month it'll even out when you see last year's carryover. So these are just some of the differences if you're looking at these comparison. The textbook fund, you'll also see that this huge expenditure, and that's the science textbook adoption. So we did get that for school. And Food Nutrition Fund also, it has the timing with the biweekly pay. So are there any questions from Marcy? I'm not Betty Crocker, Kotoff.
No, that answered my question. Yeah,
Okay,
no,
thank
you
you.
answered it, thank you.
Okay, and the Human Resource Report, Mike Jamerson?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Jack. As you can see, we do have some vacancies to report. One elementary, 2 middle school vacancies on the certified side, as well as 2 vacancies in our special ed department, still open. Also unclassified custodians, school nutrition workers, and bus drivers, which we are consistently recruiting for. As a matter of fact, this past week, we had a joint recruitment job fair that we held in front of the AJC. That was I call it joint because we did county and we were recruiting for custodians, and Greg Livesay helped us with that day, and we had quite a few candidates come in, and we felt a successful job fair this past week for
Good.
that purpose.
Good.
So,
Okay, any
any
questions?
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion for the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that the school board approves the following: minutes from the September the 8th school board meeting, the September the 13th school board retreat, and September the 22nd special school board meeting and work session, and the monthly bills and payroll, and of course, the personnel actions.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that the school board approve the minutes of the September 8th school board meeting, September 13th school board retreat, and the September 22nd special school board meeting and work session, monthly bills and payroll and personnel actions. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Okay, school board retreat. Dr. Jeck.
Well, I thought we had an outstanding retreat, and I want to talk a little bit about why I thought it was an outstanding retreat. One of the things I've come to greatly appreciate about this school division and the folks I work with in the school board is it's not enough just to look at the things we're doing well. We've also got to look at the areas where we need to improve, and that's because that's how we get better. And I appreciated that, and I felt like that that spirit of improvement and celebrating our victories and the great things we're doing, and also workshopping and coming up with strategies to work on those things where we can improve, that carried over into our retreat. And for me, that's what it's all about. And hearing from a really, really talented senior staff group, that was what was most meaningful for me in terms of the retreat. It was an all-day event, and I'm not going to go through the whole presentation. I want to just highlight a few slides. The key issues, recent and past, there they are. If you look back to last year, these are the things that really stood out in terms of the things that we struggled with, the areas where we were trying something new. Calendar is the big one. We are in the midst of a very different calendar. A creative calendar, and one that was sort of designed to accomplish several different goals. And in addition to that, we had the things that we had no control over, which were the weather. That was 17 difficult days, some more difficult than others. But that was something that everyone was dealing with throughout the state. Lots of lost instructional time. The middle school schedule, Dr. Mitchell did a presentation about middle school scheduling. And again, that's new. Our principals and teachers at the middle school level particularly have had to work through, work with this new schedule, adjust. It's not always been easy, but I think they've done a great job, so very appreciative of that. Blackboard, I think we're just, again, we implemented Blackboard last year. We gave folks quite a bit of leeway in terms of the implementation timeline, in terms of what was required. We sort of set up a minimum expectation, and all of our teachers have met that minimum expectation, and most have gone well above it. But I think what we're experiencing now is just beginning to scratch the surface of what Blackboard can do. and the different pieces and capabilities that it has. And we're just beginning now to learn about all of those different things that it can do. It's a pretty phenomenal tool. So that's an exciting thing. Additions, we have additions. We have the science fair is a new thing, something very, very positive for our school division, middle school sports, as has been mentioned here tonight. Emphasis on STEM through an elementary engineering program and some other things that some other schools are doing. So we're doing a lot of good things and, absolutely moving in the right direction. But you're always trying to strike a balance between introducing things that are going to improve your school division, but not overwhelming people. I mean, that's sort of an ongoing struggle. And I think we struck a pretty good balance last year. We had some newness, we had some new projects, but then on the other hand, we had some people that really stepped up and shouldered a vast majority of the work and the effort. And so very appreciative to those folks. Because that's what happens. New stuff is presented. I use the word stuff. That's not very appropriate. But new initiatives, programs, software, et cetera. We introduce those things, and sometimes it panics people. It makes them nervous. Blackboard made some folks nervous, and I understand that completely. But we have great support, and we're able to work through some of that newness. And then the budget, of course, the two-year budget's completely new. We spent quite a bit of time at the retreat talking about budget, and this budget season is going to be different for everyone and probably nothing like any of us has ever experienced before because in many respects we already have our budget. When I'll talk about that more in just a minute. Let me flip up here to new and somewhat new. Those are the things I mentioned. I mentioned a few of those things, but I wanted to talk about the ITRT in every school. And I just wanted to thank the board for supporting that because that's turned out to be an absolutely fantastic, wonderful, marvelous thing for our school division. It's just an excellent, excellent a resource to have within each of our buildings. We hired some great people, and they're not easy people to find. Really highly qualified ITRTs are tough to find, and we found some great ones. And it's wonderful to have that resource in the building because it takes tremendous pressure off Lewis McDonald's technology staff. And as far as the balancing act that they have to take part in, spinning the plates, getting from place to place, that's been a really tremendous thing. I wanted to point that out. And I also wanted to thank the board for supporting, again, the GT Fine Arts Supervisor's position. Again, that's just turned out to be a huge positive for our school division. So we did have some newness, but I think, again, we struck a good balance between adding those things that we really need, but not overwhelming people. Budget, I mentioned, it's going to be different. It's going to be new, and typically November is sort of the kickoff, quasi-kickoff for the budget season, and we're in a whole new ballgame. And what will come down to, for us is the progress we're able to make, and we made great progress last year with an increase in local expenditure, local revenues. We were able to make some really good progress. We added some key positions. We gave a small raise. Benefits essentially stayed, medical benefits essentially stayed at about the same level. We were able to make that huge VRS increase. We were able to accomplish that, and along with several other things that I'm sure I'm forgetting. But in order for us to make additional progress again next year, the county has talked about or proposed in the two-year budget $1.3 million additional for next year in local dollars. And again, I think that's going to enable us to make some progress. That is going to require, per Board of Supervisors agreement last year, a small increase in the local levy. But that's, again, that will give us an opportunity to make additional progress during tight budget times. And, but again, we sort of know what we're getting in October, which is brand new. And that's not something probably we've ever experienced. And I think there's maybe one other locality that does two-year budgeting, perhaps Hanover, is that right? Maybe not. Chesterfield used to. Okay, so maybe two school divisions, including ourselves, that have a two-year budget, which is sort of interesting. And last but not least, the challenges, again, what we spoke about at the retreat, there they are. I won't read them to you, but I would just mention again, the progress we made within the budget with finite resources, but some repurposing of revenues, doing things creatively in terms of filling positions and filling needs within our buildings. Those were all really, really positive things for our school division. So appreciate that very much. We've got a new comprehensive plan process getting ready to kick off. We're wrapping up our last 5-year comprehensive plan. And again, we've made tremendous progress within that plan. It's very detailed and it is indeed a comprehensive plan. We've made great progress, and now it's time to start talking about what's next. What's next for the school division and what lies ahead within the next 5 years. And we're all going to play a really important role in determining what that is, along with parents, community members, et cetera, et cetera. The growth management piece, as we talked about, we are in a relatively flat area of growth right now. And Marcy and Janice did a wonderful job at the retreat, going through 10 years of growth projections, births, et cetera, and if those things are accurate, we're looking at relatively flat growth over the next several years. But we'll see. Those kinds of things have a tendency to change without warning, but we'll see. But the information we have now is not seeing a whole lot of growth in Fauquier County, but as I mentioned, those things can change significantly. It just depends on a lot of different factors. So, just to finally wrap up my comments about the retreat, those 21st century goals that we talk about and moving our kids into being competitive college students, professionals in the 21st century world. We went back, we reviewed all of those things that we talked about last year and how do we get there and what the brand promise is. What is it we want people who think about Fauquier County Public Schools graduates, what comes to mind when they think about those graduates? What are those things that pop up? What are the characteristics that correlate with our graduates? And it's really, really great to have those conversations about those things and what are those things that we want our kids to have. We want well-rounded kids. We want kids who are comfortable in a digital world. We want kids who can collaborate. We want kids who can problem solve, who can communicate, not just be successful on multiple choice tests. And as Dr. Williamson pointed out, with our AP, the AP achievement within those group of governor school students, that's a remarkable statistic. I don't know if everyone picked up on that, but that was truly a remarkable statistic. 99% of our kids who are taking AP tests within the governor's school, and it looked to me as though they're outperforming all the other school divisions combined at about a 76% attempt rate at those AP tests. That's an incredible statistic, truly. So I thought it was wonderful. I'm looking forward to continuing this work in Fauquier County with the school board, with senior staff, and there you go. It was an excellent retreat. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
That was great. I thought it was a great retreat, too. It was great. Okay. Project Aware, Mr. Finn.
Good evening. This is a good news thing. We had a wonderful team of grant writers who had the wisdom to submit a grant for this Project Aware. I just want to mention Carolyn Lamb, who just provided the handouts. Our supervisor of student support services was on the grant writing team. Ginger Knuckles over at Thorpe House was a key grant writer. Trina Stallfort, who is our mental health specialist that you guys generously funded that position to be a full-time position. And Sally Morgan, who's the executive director of the Fauquier Mental Health Board, all participated in writing that grant, and I'm most appreciative of their efforts. Tonight, we're here to request that the school board approve the acceptance of the local education agency grant in the amount of $100,000 for the Aware Community Responders Project. This, just to provide some information for the board and for the public, the Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration provides grants for programs that are categorized under the Now is the Time Project Aware, Advancing Wellness and Resilience in Education. Fauquier County Public Schools applied for and has been approved for this grant Community Responders Project. The purpose of this program is to assist and support the training of school personnel and community who interact with youth to detect and to respond to mental illness in children and youth, including how to encourage adolescents and their families experience these issues to seek treatment. Individuals will be trained in youth mental health first aid, which introduces participants to unique risk factors and symptoms of mental health problems, builds understandings of the importance of early intervention, and teaches individuals how to help youth in crisis or experiencing a mental health or substance abuse challenge. So, when we think about all the things we've talked about regarding school safety, the way I think about this grant is this is a true prevention effort, a true opportunity to make our community aware of the issues and the struggles that our children may be having, and to get early intervention to them so that they can be well and experience the success that we want them to enjoy. This is really a community effort. It benefits us as a school division, and I'm just very proud of the team that worked on this and brought this to Fauquier County. We are asking that you approve this tonight. We move this to action just because the training of trainers will begin almost immediately. So I think this is a true effort to make our schools safer. Dr. Jeck talked about our aspirations and what we really hope for our students. And along with all the academic achievements we want them to have, we want them to grow up healthy and happy as well. And I think this is a big part of that. So Ms. Lamb's here. I don't know if the board has any specific questions, but if you do, she would be happy to address them. Oh, and I do have to mention, we were the only school division in the Commonwealth that got this grant.
What?
That's hot. That's great.
Just say,
That's great. I just had a question is it says on this that there's 1,000 people, plus people who will be trained. What groups of people do you think besides teachers and counselors?
It's a pretty big number, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. What they're going to do is we're going to train instructors in youth mental health first aid. So we'll have 11 instructors in total by the end of next year, probably plus, because we're working together with the state. The state of Virginia Department of Education also got this grant. And so we're cooperating with them, so we may even be able to get some additional instructors trained. They, in turn around and train groups of 25 people at a time. We're looking at school personnel, including teachers, of course, but also cafeteria supervisors and cafeteria workers, playground monitors. We're training community folks as well, local law enforcement, soccer coaches, Boys and Girls Club workers, people who would have a lot of interaction with youth in the community and families. We think one of the reasons why we got this grant, despite the fact that other people in the state of Virginia applied for it, was it wasn't because we had the highest poverty figures or the highest violence figures. I think they saw that we had a really genuine, good, well-developed coalition of support with our local community health resource folks, and they also saw that we are under-resourced in Fauquier County. We do not have the rich depth of community mental health resources that other counties have. So many families look to the schools, help me, help my child is feeling anxious, depressed, worried, I think he's using something. And they turn to the schools. So they saw that having a partnership with the schools and the community resource agencies would really benefit everybody. So they're training groups of folks, 25 at a time, of our school personnel and community resource people who come in contact with the families. And we're doing, I think it's about 12 classes this year, 28 classes next year. That translates into about 1,200 people. So all of those folks would be in a position to interact with students and children in the community. And they would have a chance to, I see something happening, and know what to do, to be able to raise awareness and to help direct people through sort of 5 steps of some action steps to getting help and getting treatment, getting in touch with the agencies and support services that we have available. And also to take away the stigma of a mental health concern is something we don't talk about, to turn that awareness around.
Very good.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, just congratulations.
Yeah, that is
absolutely.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you to the team that did that grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really build capacity for us too. We'll be able to train for years off of this.
Excellent, excellent. That's great. Okay, budget calendar.
Presented tonight is a draft 2016 budget calendar. It's presented each year for your approval. There's a little graph. if
I was
you-
going to say,
Look,
where is the little
there you
graph?
go.
Okay.
How to get A to Z or A to B. It's presented each year for your approval per our policy. This process is similar in the steps to this last year's 2015 process. It also, again, is including a pre-budget public hearing and Budgeting 101 on November 24th. So those would, again, be included. One of the differences, because it is a 2-year budget, and we kind of, as Dr. Jeck indicated, kind of know our budget, instead of waiting till the end of April to adopt, we should be in a position at your first meeting in April to adopt. But we do ask that if things come up, that we are flexible with the timeline. But we believe by the beginning of April, we'll be in a position to adopt our final budget, which does help with contracts going out and things like
Yep.
that. This lines up with the counties, the Board of Supervisors, their budget that they have, their draft budget calendar that they've put out as well. So any questions? All right, and we'll, again, IT was able to put this format out there on the budget, so once again, we'll do that, and when you click as we present things like the Budgeting 101, you'll be able to go to this, the page in our website that has this and click and have all the information from the whole process located in this one place. Yes. No, there's no rush on this one. I mean, we're going to begin. But this is our plan. But whenever you'd like, it's fine. This one, the next item does have a timeline, so I'll talk about that, yeah.
Okay, any questions about the calendar?
Nope.
Nope, I think it looks great. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, year-end request.
Okay. You also have before you our year-end fund request. This represents 1.29% of our budget. We spent almost the entire thing, but this piece is 1.6 million. And we've kind of put it in the same categories that you're used to seeing from our 2-year budget goals. The one that's not on here is compensation, because that does require ongoing commitment. But technology, the 21st century learning, instruction, transportation, security, and safety is on there as well. We have it broken down so you can see, we've attached now the detail so you can see all the pieces that make up the detail. It does include, that's okay. The largest component of this, do you all have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
The largest component of this is technology, and the biggest piece of that is classified under classroom, technology, and support. And Dr. Jack, did you want to speak to that component?
Sure. So I'm going to give a little advantage to, Christy, Tripp, Major, and Sam. Sometimes I think when we look at technology and spending on technology, we sort of adopt the 35,000-foot view. And what I've come to learn in the last 18 months or so is we have real needs within the classrooms. We have real significant technology needs, boots on the ground in the classrooms. And I think it's extremely important that we address those needs as best we can. So what I'm proposing is that we take a very big chunk of the end of the year money, carryover money, and purpose it towards competitive grants for each of our schools, elementary, middle, and high, whereby principals within each of our schools will work with their staff, teaching staff, support staff, and identify those needs that exist within their schools in terms of technology, or perhaps a professional development opportunity, whatever the needs are that are peculiar to each of those schools. That's what we want to know, and that's the itch that we want to scratch, because all the needs are different, and all the resources within the schools, they can be different, for example, based on the support they receive from PTOs, as one example. So felt strongly about providing this opportunity for schools, for principals to tell us what their needs are, and provide an application process, not a terribly difficult or comprehensive application process, but a process nonetheless, where you're telling us what your needs are and demonstrating the need to us for how this money can be used to furthering student learning, engaging students, and moving us towards that 21st century student that we've been talking about in terms of the brand promise that we're telling our stakeholders and our parents our kids are going to have, those qualities that our kids are going to have. So that's it in a nutshell.
Some of the other items that are out there, there's the local funds to support the full drawdown of the state textbook dollars. Is included. Also, when we put this list together, we did do it keeping in mind our next year's budget and the limited resources. At this point, state, it's the second year of the state budget, so you usually don't get any increases except due to enrollment. We're relatively flat on enrollment. And given the state's revenue picture, I don't see any additional funds coming from the state, so it really is the local. So one of the items on here is to ensure that we have the money set aside for middle school sports for 16. So we would do that as well. 2 additional buses, we were able to get 2 others. So far this year, we've purchased 6. This would allow us to purchase 2 more. There is the last little $9,000 piece that makes our $300,000 set aside for the second entrance of Kettle Run, if and when that becomes necessary. The visitor management system at all the schools, and all the other items. What we would ask is that you would consider this at your next meeting, have time to look over it, consider the items, and adopt it at the end of October on the 27th. That would allow us to meet the Board of Supervisors deadline for them to consider it in November.
And this is on the website, hooked up to the agenda?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is there, so people could look at it.
Yes. Any questions?
The detail that we don't have here on the screen. Okay, no, we talked about this at
Yeah,
our,
we talked about, one thing you didn't mention, Dr. Jack, that you did mention in finance was around the technology piece, that our new way of putting in the ITRTs into the schools. I mean, there's a lot more we can probably do in the schools on leveraging funds. Just with this technology, there's more,
Absolutely.
a lot more capacity.
Absolutely.
And I also look at the teacher evaluation system, automating that. I know that that's probably going to really, really help with teacher, making sure they're not spending their time doing their evaluations all the time, and it really helps streamline that process. We're just leveraging a lot more with this. So.
Yes.
I'm happy that we can get 2 more buses.
yes.
And I will tell you, in November, at the same time, the Board of Supervisors will be considering our year-end. They're also, as part of their year-end, considering putting
Yeah.
money aside for leasing of buses.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, revised policy, programs for students with disabilities, Mr. Finn.
Okay, this is simple. This is a policy revision based on a legislative change in the 2014 General Assembly. So we're asking the board to approve revisions to the policy 6-3.9, programs for students with disabilities, and we'd be asking for that on the November 10th board meeting. But essentially, the General Assembly requires that each local school board provide free and appropriate education for each student with a disability who attends a full-time virtual school program in the school division but resides in another school division in the Commonwealth. Now, the good thing about that is that if we had one of those programs, which we don't right now, the funding does follow those students, so don't panic. But right now, it really is not going to have any impact on us. but we are required to adopt it into our policy since it was approved at the General Assembly. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
think the consent agenda, is everybody
Yeah.
okay with that?
I'm fine with consent.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, instructional and supplementary materials, Dr. Mitchell.
This is another policy that is required because House Bill 197 changed, so we need to change policy 6-5.6, our supplemental materials policy, to state that if we were to adopt any supplementary materials, they have to include accurate restatements of the documents that you see there, among them the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, etc.
What exactly does this mean?
Why did you ask me that? I don't know that I've ever told you, said this to you. I don't know. I think this became important to a legislator, and I think that they asked us to include it. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
But it will be Ms. Akers' job to be sure that this happens.
Glad they put the word accurate in there.
Accurate,
Accurate,
They want accurate.
accurate.
it's a good thing. right?
Versus inaccurate?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, any questions?
No.
I wouldn't know what to ask.
Right.
Well, we're putting, yeah, no, we're good, we're good. Yeah, I think that, I mean, is everybody good with consent agenda?
I'm good with consent agenda.
You good with consent agenda? Okay. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move that the school board move information items 14B, Project Aware Grant, to action item 15A for consideration for approval this evening.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that the school board move information item number 14B, Project Aware Grant, to action item number 15A for consideration for approval this evening. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it.
I move that the school board approve the acceptance of the local education agency grant in the amount of $100,000 for the Aware Community Responders Project.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that the school board approve the acceptance of the local education agency grant in the amount of $100,000 for the Aware Community Responders Project. Any discussion? I just again want to thank the grant team. This is an incredible asset for our community as a whole, really is. That's great. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There's been a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks for